Hey guys, Sad Cat here today, and I want to talk about the Herald of Ash change on the beta. People have known about this for a while, but not everyone has been aware of it. A lot of people have been asked to on stream to explain it, so I figured I would cover it here. So this is the current Herald of Ash, as in live, and the way it reads is channel fire through your hands, adding fire to your physical damage. If you kill an enemy with an attack, other enemies near them will be ignited, very important, ignited, for the overkill damage. It starts off with some just base, 15% of fizz damage is extra fire, and as you level up the skill gem, you gain this extra kill damage. So the ignite is based off of the overkill up to 137%. So what this means is that you can take a mob with, for example, 1 HP, hit it for 1,000,000, and then that will get scaled up and then spread around. People have used this in Herald of Ash Prolif builds. This was kind of what enabled a Worm Blaster build with the Worm Flasks. The Railgun build, anyone knows that, the build I played last league with Shrapnel Shot, the build that Rise has played, so on and so forth. Those people have done stuff with Herald of Ash and Prolif. So what enables it, you have a single big hit, big overkill damage, it ignites, you then do Prolif stuff, seems good. What the current Herald of Ash reads as is grants a buff adding fire to your physical damage. While you have this buff, if you kill an enemy with an attack, other enemies near them will be burned based on the overkill damage, and again that is will be burned. It still has the 15% of physical as extra fire damage, and when you level it up, instead of getting an increased overkill damage multiplier, you instead just get more burning damage. Now you can also link this with the buffed burning damage support, which does give more damage now instead of increased damage. But even so, this is a very significant loss of DPS, since you're missing out on the extreme overkill scaling, and most importantly, you're no longer doing an ignite, you're doing a burn now. I'm not 100% sure as to why GGG changed this, because the only thing this really does is stop those Herald of Ash builds from working. Perhaps they considered it too powerful to be able to do little kind of like funky stuff with little worms, etc. But for the average build, most builds just like slotted Herald of Ash in. The only builds which really like benefited from it, the ones who were going all in on the Prolif shenanigans, you had to get a lot of very particular scaling. You either had to link up your Herald of Ash with a bunch of supports to make it feel meaningful. You had to have generic Prolif, be it from either an Elementalist or something like the Zoth's Nurture Bow. So it wasn't like the most powerful of things. It definitely wasn't like a lot of people were complaining about. But for whatever reason, GGG has decided to kind of just like nip that in the head. Now, the reason why I'm making this video is just so people are aware of it, because I get a lot of questions about my Herald of Ash build. How good will it be in 3.0 with the change to burns and stuff? Basically, it just won't really be playable. You could still try and do similar builds, doing stuff like Chin Soul based point blank Shrapnel Shot with the double jewels, and just trying to do ignite from that, like do it as crit, and just the initial hit applies an ignite and spread it around, and that might work. But with the current state of ignites on the beta, you won't have the same scaling and insane single target DPS going into the higher tiers of content. So you might struggle when it comes to like the Guardians and so on and so forth. Whereas before, what enabled these builds to work was like you could just get all this crazy ramped up scaling, you know, kill a side pack, whatever, and even without all of that stuff, you still had a lot of like initial built-in damage. You were using bows, you had point blank, all the stuff in the skill tree. You could always like weapon swap to barrage, even if you weren't going to be messing around with shenanigans. And that is the one thing which I do find a little bit strange about this, is that this is a deliberate change. It probably wasn't like an oversight. If it was an oversight, then please GG maybe rethink that. But it kind of implies to me they didn't like it because of the potential like shenanigans that you could do with stuff like Worm Flasks. But you can get like way more obscene damage with stuff like barrage and additional projectile scaling, and that is something which is just insane and hasn't seen any changes at all thus far in the beta. And with all the changes to ignite and double dipping, the top builds will most likely be just like insert super expensive Ellie Wanda or insert super expensive elemental barrage shenanigans. and that was kind of already the case. So yeah, Herald of Ash is different. This is a cap. Barrage, Ellie build will still be insane. All the clear speed, you know, hauls out there. You're still going to have really insane clear speed builds. You're still going to have these like insane like tier 1 one-shot shaper builds. But it seems like there'll be less kind of like back shenanigans. It seems like a lot of the builds coming a bit more not necessarily simplistic, that feels like the wrong kind of word, but they're a lot more straightforward, if that makes sense. There isn't a lot of like background scaling. Say what you will about a lot of the double dipping builds, it did often require like some knowledge of how certain things interact with each other, having all the correct setups with the wither totems, the Var lightning traps, etc., getting all those like as many different back-end scalers as possible. It seems that we're sort of being encouraged to build towards more straightforward, like you are an Ellie build, you get the relevant penetration, get the relevant crit multi if you're a crit or whatever, and you just hit it really hard and try not to kill yourself to reflect. But yeah, I don't know. Do you like this more like streamlined approach, or do you like the more kind of complicated, kind of confusing background stuff? Yeah, I'm Tarke. Have a good day. Bye-bye. Peace.